It's the colorful episode. Buckle down, beige haters. There's no beige in this video, I don't think. The other theme for this video is crafty chores. Some people are really gonna hate that term, and that's okay. I like it. To me, a crafty chore is that one part of the project that I just need to get done and I keep not wanting to do, because like anything in life, you're very rarely going to like every single step of the process. Like when someone does pottery, they probably don't love the cleanup process too much, or maybe they really hate the throwing process. Like there's just one part of the process that they're not a fan of, but they like everything else. And it doesn't mean that you don't like your hobby. For me, there are little things in knitting that I kind of procrastinate on. I don't even hate these things usually. It's just like oh yeah, I gotta get that done. I gotta remember to get that done. And then it never gets done. So we're getting it done today. Task number 1, fix my Polaroid sweater, specifically lengthening it. This has happened to me a couple times, but it really depends on the project, where the first few times I block it, it blocks a certain way very predictably. And then after a while, it kind of settles into a new form factor. So this one has slowly over time, the body has gotten wider and shorter, which is fairly common if you tend to do more cropped sweaters where you don't have a lot of weight pulling it down. And this was, I think, the first finished object I used with this kind of yarn. This is Drops Cotton Merino Blend, so I wasn't sure how it was going to block out or behave. So now I know if I use this in the future, I should probably make my projects a little bit longer than I'm expecting. Weirdly enough, the sleeves also got a bit longer, even though I have been mindful about how I've been blocking it and laying it out a certain way. But I've decided I don't actually mind the sleeves being longer, especially because they're narrow enough where I can roll them up really easily, and I do like having rolled up sleeves. A crochet project that we got to talk about is this. I just need to block it. It's done. I had been in such a crafty slump for the past month. I don't think I've really worked on much of anything. People might not know that when you watch my videos. These videos take weeks, if not months, to make because knitting is a slow hobby. So a lot of people look at my videos and they're like, oh my gosh, how does she have time to do all that? It's because it took 2.5 months. That's why. That's how. This hat, I need to block it. It's crochet. I made it with yarn that I got in Spain that is just fun to play with. So we've got one crochet project. Another knitting project that's going to be a quick one. This is just a project I need to finish up. This was a rage cast on at my last knit and chat because I brought a project to the knit and chat that was way too mentally complicated and it was just having problems. I was getting really frustrated and I just wanted to enjoy the knit and chat. So I ended up buying some yarn while I was there and new needles and was like, I'll just cast on a balaclava because I can knit those in my sleep and I would love to have a red one. So I'm making one. Right now, the only balaclava I have in my closet is this one, which I wear all the time in the winter. And I really do love it. It's so beyond practical. And I've made much more fun ones. I've done a little color work, but I've given them all away as gifts because I find that I tend to wear just more simplistic stuff. But I really like making the fun stuff. Anyways, I'm doing this red one. And I think the only differences I'm gonna do is I want the ribbing to go on a lot longer. Okay, because here you can see with this one that there's some like exposed skin in between the neckline of the sweater and where the balaclava ends. So I'd like to have it go a little bit further down so that I can really prevent having any exposed skin when I'm out and about. And I'm debating if I want to do like cords on it, like when you have a hoodie and you have the cord, whatever that's called. I have a sewing project that I need to wrap up. Well, I don't need to, but I want to wrap up. This is going to be a pair of shorts. It's meant to be pretty oversized. I need to add the elastic waistband in and I need to do the bottom hem on the shorts. I've decided not to add any pockets and I'm not doing any drawstring. I've never owned shorts that are just shorts with no pizzazz going on and I'm really curious. So it's kind of an experiment to see, am I really bothered by projects that don't have pockets? If I do get annoyed, I can just add a pocket onto this. I have way more of this fabric and other fabrics. It would not be that hard to add a pocket. But for now, we're just finishing up the most simplistic version of this. Okay, and the last project is just to unravel. I'm keeping it pretty low pressure. I'm not gonna expect myself to completely knit a huge sweater during this video, but I do want to unravel so I can get started on this. This is a sweater that I started that I love in concept, but not in actuality. So this needs to be unraveled, but because the color work is done in such a specific way, I need to unravel it in sections and I need to label which section the yarn came from so that when I restart it, it'll work out. And I want to take notes for when I do my second attempt at this sweater so that I have as much information as possible and hopefully can do the second attempt better than this attempt. I gotta say, headbands make me look a bit more preppy than I would like, but also it is such a game changer. I have been so annoyed by this haircut because it's too short to put up. Even in a half bun, like I can't get the half hair even up, but the headband, it keeps the hair out of my face. I have been wearing it every day. Outside of that tangent, it's time to work on my shorts. The first thing I'm gonna do is sew up the waistband. I'm hoping to just get these done tonight, like knock it out. Sewing is still not like my favorite activity. I definitely enjoy it more than I used to, but I find it to be a little tedious, but I just really like the result of like actually hand sewing your own stuff. These are the lane pants. This is the lane pants pattern. And since I don't have access to a serger, this was the recommended way to do the waistband, where you have like the body of your pants, and then you have the fabric of the waistband that is a strip of fabric folded in half that you are attaching on. So it's three layers of fabric that you're seaming together, and there's an exposed raw edge. I did do a zigzag stitch along the raw edge here to help prevent excess fraying, but it's still not great, and it's a little uncomfortable on the skin. The skin around my waist is very sensitive, and it just rubs on in a way that's not entirely comfortable, and it just doesn't look clean. There's nothing wrong with it. It's definitely held up well, but I lately have been a lot more comfortable with folding in the waistband edges. So for this, instead of having the waistband and the body of the shorts being two separate pieces of fabric, it's just one. So when I was cutting out the back left panel, I added on an extra 3 inches, 4 inches maybe, and then I folded it over on itself twice. And that's how I get this really clean edge. I like this. There's a lot less roughness that's like rubbing against my skin. It's completely hiding the seam so you don't see the raw edge. It's just a lot cleaner, and to me it feels more durable. Whether or not it actually is remains to be seen. It's a little finicky to do this in the sewing process because I'm sewing directly onto the waistband to prevent me having to do too many seams. So I'm having to stretch out the elastic and fold this over at the same time, but it has worked out successfully in the past. I think I can do it again. Another lesson I've learned from doing my shorts, I really like just having plain cotton quilting shorts. Number one is regular quilting cotton works perfectly well for doing like lounging around the house shorts, and they've held up really well in the wash too. Number two is to make sure that the elastic for the waistband is a little bit shorter than I want it to be width-wise, because it's naturally going to stretch out over time. And when I actually go to sew the waistband in place, it's going to be hard to see on this gingham, but there's actually 1, 2, 3 lines of stitching here that's attaching the actual elastic to the outside, and it just looks so much cleaner than not doing that. But at the same time, it naturally stretches out the elastic and makes sure that it doesn't have as much give. I just noticed that when I did that, it would stretch out the elastic and kind of hold it in place so it doesn't return back to its smallest form anymore. So moving forward, I'm always trying to make my elastic a little bit shorter than I actually want it to be. Of course, adding drawstrings helps with this too. But I'm just really happy that I feel like I'm really learning how to do a really polished elasticated waistband, because I did not know how to do that a year ago. So I'm going to sew on the waistband, and then if I have the energy tonight, I'm also going to hem the bottoms. But that's the plan. This yarn is Woolfolk yarn, and it is the softest yarn in every yarn shop I've been to. And I'm excited to have a finished object in this yarn just to see if it's something I'd want to use more of in the future. Granted, it is, for my budget, a higher end yarn, so it's definitely something I would use on a special occasion, but it is nice to know, like, hey, if I do want to get myself some birthday yarn or some Christmas yarn, is this what I should be saving up for? But I do like using fancier yarn for smaller projects like this as a way to really enjoy the fancy yarn without having to like spend a sweater's quantity worth of money on it. All right, I think I should really put this on some barber cord and see how it's fitting, because I know that the neckline on this one, like the ribbing portion that goes around my neck, it's definitely a lot more fitted than my alpaca version. So I want to make sure that it's not too tight, and then I also want to see just how long to make it. And the other thing I'm wondering is, if, because your neck grows over time, like gets wider towards the base of it, if I should add increases and make the base larger as I move along. Those are the questions in my head right now. Okay, initial thoughts right now is the hood shape is perfect. So I appreciate that I got to have sort of like the looser hood feel while still having it be something that's not going to fall off my face. Another note is I got to make sure when I do my bind off that I'm not doing it too tight. Otherwise, I'm just not going to be able to fit this over my head. And I'm thinking I really should be doing increases as I move along here. So I need to consider what the best approach to doing the increases is going to be. Okay, real time, here's what I'm thinking. Option 1 is I do sort of a slit somewhere in the front or in the back or on the sides, doing a split. And that way it makes more room. It makes it easier to put on and take off. The downside being if I do a split, then if I had it started now, I would have some exposed skin somewhere where the slit is. Option 2 is I add increases by doing extra purls. So right now I have 1x1 rib where it's 1 knit stitch, 1 purl stitch. So if I did increases and made it 1 knit stitch, 2 purl stitch, 1 knit stitch, 2 purl stitch, maybe that could help, but I'm not sure if that would look weird or not. Another option is I add like a sort of raglan seam in the front or the back, and then that'll eventually give it sort of a more pointed shape. And I could do it on the sides too. So it's like an inverted raglan, because normally the raglan seams sit like in between, but instead I would have it in the middle, on the side, in the back, on the other side, and doing like a raglan seam that way. I'm liking pretty much all of these options. Yeah, I'm liking all these options. It might be a flip a coin sort of situation. We'll see. And then I'm pretty sure I just want to do an I-cord edge around the whole thing just to sort of clean up the bottom here and the top and make sure the sides aren't rolling in quite as much. I might experiment with different increase options. Like I'll start by doing the knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, and adding a second stitch wherever the purls are. I'm thinking that's going to be my best bet. All right, I'm going to play around and I'll check in with you later. I'm not done. I didn't finish it without you. I tried probably 5 or 6 different options, like different ways of increasing, different ways of doing the shaping to get the like effect of increasing, but doing it via shaping versus actually doing literal increases. What I ended up liking the most was just doing increases in like a raglan style, where on either side of this main knit stitch, I would make one right and make one left. And I did that every other round. I like the look of it, but more importantly, I like the fit of it. I really like this shaping. I like that it comes to a point. I'm hoping I can make the point even a little bit more defined with blocking. And then I have the points along my shoulders, and then I have one matching in the back that looks just like the one in the front that's totally centered. The only remaining steps for this is to do an I-cord edge and then block it, and I think that that's it. So I've made progress. I don't feel really cute when I'm wearing hoods because I feel like it's a more practical item than it is meant to be aesthetically cute. There is one thing I'm noticing on this that I want to keep an eye on because I haven't blocked this yet, and it's that these want to curl inside, which is not an issue I had with the last one. So I'm curious what that's about, because I think if it does really annoy me, then I will just undo this and replace it with a 1x1 rib. But I wanted to add like something to this to make it a little cuter, and I'm thinking a bow would be a nice touch. I want to make an I-cord, tie it into a bow, and attach it to this. I think that would be really cute. I like making I-cords. I think they're fun. So I've started on a 5-stitch I-cord, and I'm going to make it pretty long because I want it to hang down in the front. I don't think it'll take more than an hour or two. I-cords usually go faster than I expect. All right, it's been a couple hours and I have made 2 and a little bit of an I-cord so far. Only one is for this project, but I think it'll be really cute. Okay, I want to show you. Right here, I'm debating if I want to sew it on or if I want to get like a really tiny safety pin and sort of like pin it on here. Or I think I have little circular clasps I can use. Okay, so this is a nose ring clasp. Obviously cleaned it and kept it, but I think it would work really well for this because the clasp on this is really tight. I don't think I've ever had a nose ring fall out. Okay, so if I add the clasp on the back, then I feel like I could clasp it onto here and have it be removable so that if I don't want to wear it, I have that option. Okay, let's see how it looks. That is so cute. That is so much cuter. Just a freaking little bow, and now I have like the long tassels. I love this. Okay, let's talk about styling balaclavas because I want to experiment a little bit. I, for one, never leave the house in the winter if I'm wearing a balaclava without sunglasses. I feel really cute if I'm wearing one with sunglasses. I feel like super Handmaid's Tale if I'm not wearing one with sunglasses. Okay, underrated. Wearing a hat with a balaclava. I feel like this is just ultimate warmth. And it goes with the mittens I made with the finger holes. I'm gonna match and be so coordinated, and it's gonna be so cute. Okay, I'm in my pajamas right now, so forgive me for this, but I'm just curious how this would look with the scarf. And if I wear it with the scarf, I feel like I should, like, how does that look with the bow out? What do we feel? I'm not sure about that. Or if I should take it off if I'm planning on wearing a scarf with it, or just tuck it in. That feels weird. Yeah, probably just take it off. I am so ready for blizzard weather. Oh my gosh. Come on, -0. Let's go. Okay, I like it with my purple hat too. Okay, predictions. How's this gonna look with a baseball hat? I don't hate it with this hat. I don't hate it. I could see myself wearing this. Sometimes it gets sunny in the winter, and I would like to shield myself from the sun. It's not bad. Not bad. But most of the time in the winter, I like to wear them down like this, and I like to bring them on walks, mostly just for days where I'm like, if the wind picks up, it's going to get really cold, and I'm going to want to have something that can cover my ears. But otherwise, I just need something around my neck. My Northern Augustan sweater. I bet this would look so cute with that. But when it comes to style stuff like bows, I try not to go all in on it for fear that I will change my mind later on. That being said, I have made more bows. So I made this little bow because a couple years ago, I ended up making the Sophie scarf, and I never wore it as a scarf. I've had a lot of issues with it, like rotating, and it's uncomfortable. So instead, I wear it almost exclusively as either a hair wrap to warm my ears up when it's like a little chilly but not very cold. My lunch is ready. But most of the time, my Sophie scarf lives on my purse, and I tie it into a bow on my purse. And I thought it'd be cute to have like a red one for this winter season. Very Christmassy. I like it. I think that's so cute. An unintended great use of the coasters my sister made for me is for this, so that I don't have to do the influencer hand. I never understood why that was ever a cringy thing. Like, even in 2016, people were starting to see it as really cringy because all the makeup influencers were doing it. But for the 1% of you that don't know, there is a reason. It's just because your camera will not focus on anything but your face. It is very difficult to get it to focus on anything but your face if you have one that does like an automatic focus like my camera does, and you need to have a thing for the camera to focus on that blocks your face. And it's easier for people just to do that with their hands. But now that I have these like really cute leaf coasters, I can show stuff off better. Yeah, I'm working on another one that's going to be a lot smaller. Oh, well, that just fell off the needles. And I want to make it really small and mini. So imagine this just like cut off where my hand is and doing a tiny one. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. I'm really tempted to stick it on Mary's collar for like a minute so I can just be like, you're so cute, and then take it off. But I don't know. I just got really into I-cords for a second, and I'm enjoying the process of making them, so I might just make a ton of I-cords. And in case anybody wants to do a project like this, I wrote down some vague notes, some poorly written notes about how I made this and how many stitches I did, what needle size I used, yarn type, all of that on Ravelry. I'm calling this the Little Red Riding Hood. Shout out to the woman that runs my knit and chats for naming the hood. I've been trying to get better about taking notes on things that I've made so that if people do want to try and self-draft or use my notes as like guidance to make it, they can hopefully figure it out from my chicken scratch. But I would say the way I take notes is probably not very beginner friendly. You probably need to be like an advanced beginner or an intermediate to figure out how to make something using only my notes. All right, I gotta go eat my lunch. The oven keeps yelling at me, but I'm so happy with this project. All right, my task for the next few days is to lengthen the sweater. I am surprised, honestly surprised by how short it has gotten. It was not this short when I finished it, I promise. It is 100 degrees outside today. So I'm going to sit outside by a pool and knit, because that seems like a normal thing to do on a 100-degree day, is knit on a partially wool sweater. Because this is Italian bind off and I do value my own sanity, I'm gonna cut the hem. Like, not the whole thing, but I'm gonna try, and I'm just gonna take a pair of scissors to the bottom 2 rounds, because I don't want to painstakingly undo the sewn bind off. I really don't. So I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna unravel all of the ribbing portion here. And then I'm gonna add, I think, 2 inches to this. And then I wanna do the bottom hem, and I wanna do it larger than this initial hem. And right now I'm considering if I wanna do a split hem or a regular hem. I like both, so I try to kind of mix up which ones I do how often. I like when my tops fall just below where my pants start, like just a little bit, like an inch of overlap. And also something to note about my body type and my personal preference for cropped clothing. I prefer cropped sweaters. I have received a strange amount of comments of people being like, you need to stop knitting your sweaters so short. It's ridiculous. I'm like, I think it's just a matter of personal preference. Sometimes it gets too short for me. I do have a line, but I just prefer having cropped stuff. And a big part of that is not only personal preference and style, but also my hips jut out pretty quickly at this point in my body, which means if I'm wearing a sweater that is a normal length, it falls right at the widest part of my body, creating a line there. I don't like the illusion that creates. I'm not a huge fan of that silhouette on me. I like when stuff ends just before my hips, but that happens to be right like at a very high up point. My waist is just a little higher. And I have an incredibly short torso. It is 9 inches from my like highest part of my underarm to where my hip starts. That's a 9 inches. So I don't want to do 12-inch sweaters that are going to fall and look really weird on me. It's just not my style. This is what I think would be called semi-cropped for most people, and I don't feel like this is doing much for me. I don't like the shape and general silhouette. I feel like a blob. And as another example, this sweater is like my ideal level of croppedness. I think the other one that I just put on is about 2 inches lower than this, so it's such a small window between it being the perfect amount of crop for me and it being way too long. Because my hips aren't that long either. I'm a very short individual. Everything's very compressed. So, and my hips are 5 inches, meaning the distance from where my smallest point on my body is to the widest point on my body, that's 2 inches of difference. That is such a small window to be aiming for when it comes to knitting sweaters. So I do redo my hems a lot when I knit after a couple washes, when it's finally settled on a certain length, just to get it just the way I want it to. And I'm only explaining all of this so I can point people in a certain direction when they're like, why the heck do you knit everything so cropped? I have a reason. You might not agree with the reason. That's fine. You don't have to wear these sweaters, but this is my personal preference. And doing crop sweaters means I typically don't have to use as much yarn. All right, I got some homework to do. I got a sweater to cut up, some yarn to put on needles, and it'll get done when it gets done.
Tree, the last weekend of summer, the empire at our fingertips, the autumn to discover. If I would have had the worthiness to be the perfect lover, would you stay under the willow tree when I asked if you would be? Would you be my Valentine? Would you be my Valentine? Still I lie within the memory, devoted as your lover.
I did end up finishing this sweater yesterday, so all in one afternoon. That was really nice. Granted, I just got to sit on the couch watching YouTube videos, and then I went to the pool and worked on it. Then I hung out with a friend. We watched a movie. She had never seen Double Jeopardy, so I was like, hey, do you want to watch this? And she ended up really loving it. So yay, more people I can convert to liking the movie Double Jeopardy. I think in total I added maybe 1.5 inches. I still have yet to block this, so my little squiggly bits will be evened out over time. If you choose to knit with the ramen noodle yarn, so like if you unravel something that's already been blocked and it looks like ramen noodles, you're supposed to wash your yarn before using it again because it can create a really uneven stitch texture. I can't be bothered. But this is the perfect length now. I hope you can see what I'm talking about with this, where if I went any longer, this would fall at the widest point in my body. This is the first version of my Polaroid sweater knit in Drops Alpaca, and as you can see, it is way too cropped even on me. I don't need multiple Polaroid sweaters in my collection. I already have one that fits me really well. So this one is a bit more positive ease than I would normally like, and again, it's just way too short. So I ended up buying one ball of Drops Alpaca in the same off-white color. I would like to lengthen this considerably. It'll probably end up being about here on me. This is going to be for my mom because I know that she said she really likes the sweater. Ever since I finished it, she was like, can you make me one? Better yet, this can just be yours. And my husband and I are leaving on a road trip soon, I think in the next couple hours here. I thought this would be a good car project because it's basically just going to be stockinette stitch in the round forever because I'm going to be adding like 10 plus inches to the body here. Maybe more. We'll see. Now I got to find what I did with the alpaca yarn. I hope it's in one of my bins or somewhere very easily accessible. Please, previous version of me, please have put this in an easy to find location. Yep. Also this morning, I did cast on a new pair of socks. I always do the same sock pattern. This is the Smart Heart socks by Veronica Lindberg, aka Kureva Kika, from her book Knit This, which is her first book because she has multiple. These are my favorite go-to basic socks. I've adjusted the pattern slightly to just be a little bit more comfortable for me and fit me better. And I would love to experiment and have more fun colorwork socks, but for now, I'd also really like to just have knit socks in basically every single color. The yarn is this gorgeous ochre color, and I just love it. It's so deep. Anyways, I'm going to go look for my alpaca yarn. Hopefully it was somewhere easy to find so that I can work on this during my road trip and make progress. I don't expect to finish this during this video, but I at least want to get the ball rolling. Okay, also you got to see the bows that I made. So I finished one long I-cord bow. There was another one that's on my hood that's about the same length, and then I made a miniature one. Isn't she cute? Oh my gosh. I want to stick a little pin on the back and pin this to like bags or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I also have more of this red yarn, so I'm tempted to just keep making I-cord bows until I run out of this yarn because they're just so cute. I can't wait for Christmas time. I want red bows everywhere this Christmas, so I'll just keep making them. I have returned from my road trip and I made very little progress on my knitting because I got very car sick the entire time. So there was going to be no knitting in the car. But I worked on this just literally just this morning and before I left. So I've done about 1 inch of knitting on this, and I'm going to block it to make sure that it like blocks out because it's looking a little wonky. But I think I remember that about this yarn before. This is Drops Alpaca, and I remember working with it the first time. It looked really like uneven and the stitch definition was not what I expected it to be, but as soon as I blocked it, it made a really nice even fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and block this. I think after I do 2 inches, just to make sure there's not going to be a harsh line where you can tell that I've started with a new yarn. If you really can tell and there is a harsh line, then I will just go back to the blue section and start knitting from there with the new yarn. I'm not going to love that, but I'll do it. But this is going to take me a while. This is going to be multiple months because based on how long it took me to just do an inch, I think it's going to take me over 20 hours of active knitting to finish this. So it's going to be one that I kind of pick up and set down a lot over time. And I think it'll be a good like comfort project since it's just stockinette stitch in the round. And it's going to take a while also because it's oversized and the needles are really small. Like it's a 3.75 millimeter needle, but in my soul, it feels like a 3.25. It's an emotionally small needle. And that probably has to do with the fact that it is more of an oversized sweater. All right, the other project I didn't work on during the trip. I worked on this while my husband was getting ready the day before we left. And this is my first time working with this gauge of yarn for socks. So I knew I was probably going to have to restart whatever I did. And with socks, because it's such a small dimension, I just treat it like the gauge swatch. I just start on the sock, kind of do an educated guess for how many stitches I think I'll need. And this one's too big, so I'm going to unravel and redo it. And I'm not sure. I'm debating if I want to go down a needle size as well. I like my hand knit socks to be a fairly dense fabric. Right now I'm using a 2.25 millimeter needle, and I might go down to a 2. This is Malabrigo sock. I've never used this yarn before, so we'll see how it holds up because I do like me some good sock yarn. But I want to talk about my road trip real quick. So my husband and I did a 2.5-day road trip sort of up the Oregon coast, and we also did a little bit of Northern California so he could see the redwood forest because he's never seen redwoods before. And that was so cool. And every time I do road trips around Oregon, I fall in love with this state all over again. It is one of the most beautiful states in the United States that I've personally ever been to. It's such a gorgeous state. There's so much to see, and everywhere you drive to in the state is just beautiful. Like the view, the entire drive is just gorgeous. We drove to one place in sort of central Oregon, and it was 105 degrees outside. And then we drove an hour towards the coast, and it was 65. In 1 hour of a drive, it dropped 40 degrees, and it went from being arid desert. We saw some small forest fires starting, or grass fires. Firefighters were on top of it, thankfully. But then within an hour, we were in a misty rainforest where it felt really cold. It's amazing. It amazes me every time. So we got to see, in 2.5 days, we got to see the redwood forest. We went to Florence, which is my favorite city in Oregon. It's known for its sand dunes. Absolutely beautiful. And then we got to see sea lions, which is always my favorite. I'm always way too enthusiastic when I see sea lions or seals. It just makes my day. But yeah, the entire trip was just beautiful. And me and my husband, we road trip really well together. So it's fun getting to go on long drives with him. Anyways, Pippin has been hanging on real close because we just got back last night, so she's gotten lots of cuddles in that time. Did someone get under the covers and curl up next to me this morning? Yes, they did. That was it. That was just my road trip. It's not to brag. It's more like, do it. If you haven't done it before, driving down the Oregon coast, driving up the Oregon coast, it's gorgeous. Last projects for the video. I have 2 more to go, and they're pretty easy, small ones because it's not me like actively finishing projects. The first one is, get off, blocking this hat. I crocheted this. It took a day and a half to make, and I really do like it. I like how it goes with my shirt. I think it's fun. I like the little border. This was self-drafted. I didn't follow a pattern. Doing hats is so easy. It's so much easier than I thought with crochet because you just make a circle and then you just go straight and do no increases, and then you go back to doing increases. And I don't know all the terminology with crochet because I've still yet to follow a crochet pattern. Still never followed a crochet pattern before. But my one recommendation is if you do a hat is to crochet into the front portion of the stitch on that first round. And it gets you like a nice crisp fold line between like the actual head part of the hat and the brim. So that's my only recommendation. The rest of it can be done normally. This is all single crochet. And then I just kind of messed around with the border and did sort of like a scallopy situation. I don't know, crochet is fun because you can play with it a lot more. It's really flexible for play. The yarn I am using is Washi by Katia, and I got it when I was in Spain earlier this year. Hi, I see you. I promise I see you. And it's sort of, there are different names for it. Tape yarn, ribbon yarn. This is what it looks like. It's it's a synthetic yarn, so I think I'll steam it and then put some plastic over the top and set some heavy books around the brim because I want it to lay as flat as possible. And then what's the other thing I'm supposed to do? Trying to remember because I recorded that intro like a month ago. Unraveling this sweater so that I can re-knit it. And hopefully I can get the next two done in the next 2 days. I mean, time-wise, it's not going to take me that long. This is probably, between the two projects, maybe 3 hours of effort. But that's all I have left to do. Yes, I'm so excited. I just can't hide it. Boop. I almost never steam block, so I'm really flying by the seat of my pants here, just hoping it all works out. Although I'm left thinking, how complicated could steam blocking really be? Besides, I like the hat before blocking it. I'll probably like it after blocking it. I highly doubt I will ruin this thing by steaming it, but you know, we'll find out. The material for this hat is extremely thick, and so I feel like the steam had a really difficult time penetrating further into the fiber. I use the term fiber loosely here because it's synthetic material. I was hoping the steam would help it relax a bit more, and off camera to get a better angle, I really did give this an aggressive steaming and I didn't notice a significant difference. Still, once I felt like it was somewhat damp to the touch, I decided to weigh it down with some books. Didn't want to ruin the books, so I placed a plastic layer in between the books and the hat. I removed the books after about 5 hours, and I didn't notice a significant difference before when I weighed them down and after. Okay, I finished blocking the hat and steaming it, and I think it helped a little bit, but it's still trending to curl up. So I think that's just the way it's gonna be. I did end up leaving it overnight with the books weighing it down, but I didn't notice a significant difference before and after doing that. I'm also undecided on this hat because it was fun to make. I'm happy with how it turned out, but actually keeping it and styling it wise, I feel like something's off. Like it's not particularly me, but I can't quite put my finger on why. Because I think it's cute. I think like it works. You know, I own a lot of blue. It makes sense in my closet, but something just feels a little off. For comparison, this is my go-to everyday summer hat, and what I like about this one is it feels a lot more neutral to me. It's thinner and it maintains its shape, so I can fold it totally flat, especially if I'm traveling. I've often stuck this in my purse, and I like that it doesn't get damaged when I fold it. So I think I'm just thinking right now, I don't really need more hats. That's the thing with knitting. There are a lot of things I've made that I really like, well, and crochet. Lots of things I've made that I really like, but with this space I have in my home, I feel like it's a competition for what I like the most, which is a good problem to have, a very good problem to have. So we'll see. I think I'll wear it for a little bit and get a feel for it. Maybe it'll grow on me over time, but even with all that being known, I'm happy that I made it. I love that I'm entering like a new fun phase in knitting and crochet, making in general, where it's more process focused, and I like that I got to make the thing, not that I necessarily need to own the thing. It's a weird dynamic because that inherently feels wasteful to me, is making something knowing I won't have it, but I know lots of people in my life, and I know lots of people that would want the things that I've made, or potentially selling some stuff might be kind of nice. Like a more low pressure way of selling my knits and not having it be like, oh my gosh, I gotta knit stuff just to sell it, but more the attitude of, I just want to make this. If nobody else wants it, I will happily be selling it. Yeah, I just dropped this on the ground and it immediately lost all of its shape. So I think it just is what it is. It's a little bit more flexible, loosey-goosey, which is not necessarily bad. I just was kind of curious if I could get it to stiffen up. I think potentially I could starch it. I don't know if starching pairs well with synthetic materials, but I'm not that motivated to make this a very stiff brim hat. But yay, the hat's done. All right, let's move on to the last project of the video, getting stuff done. We're reaching the point in the video where I start feeling incredibly satisfied because I get to, in editing, look back at all the things I've done. I'm like, ooh, I got a lot done in the past 2 months. That's really nice. All right, I got errands to run, which is why I'm fully dressed like this. All right, time to unravel and make a list of all the problems. I think I'm actually just gonna list them out loud, and then editing me, I'm giving you homework. Can you write them down for me, please? I'm feeling real lazy right now. So problem number 1 is the neckline. It's meant to be like a really oversized, super drapey turtleneck, but if you look at it, it's not folding over all the way and it doesn't like splay out nicely. So if I were to do this again, I'd want to increase the needle size as I go further and further along in the neck instead of just doing it straight, or not do this type of neckline at all because I'm not 100% convinced that it's my style. Another issue is I should go down a needle size, no, up a needle size. I'm thinking that the density of the stitches is a little bit too dense. It's not even too dense. I think I could just get away with a larger needle size, and with a yarn this thick, I'd rather lean on the airy side. Otherwise this could get really heavy really fast. Another note is I would like to do longer strands. So the strands of color in the back, they're pretty short. They seldom make their way entirely across the row, and they usually take up about a third of a row. And I think the color changes on this are too quick. If you look at the neckline, I much prefer this style where the colors usually go across the entire row. And then you just have a few that go like shorter bits. That's what I ended up doing on the front and on the sleeves as well, and I think that really worked. And that is specifically why when I go to unravel this, I'm going to unravel it in sections. And I want to label each of the sections so that when I go to reknit this, I can remember, okay, this was used to make the neckline. Because if I end up using the yarn I used on the sleeve for doing the body, the lines on it are going to be way too short. So the colorful lines on the body need to be much longer than that on the sleeves or anything on this with the shorter circumference. Any other notes? It needs to be way smaller. It is way too oversized. That's kind of the main problem. And then this is doing a European shoulder construction. Thank you to the folks that educated me on what that's called. I love that I can ask that question here. When I'm struggling finding an answer for something, I always check Google first, but I was really struggling after Googling so many times what this shoulder construction was called. It's the same construction that's used in the sibling sweater and a bunch of other sweaters, like petite knit sweaters I've done in the past too. Some of Veronica Lindbergh's follow this construction, and I did not know what it was called. Anyways, European shoulder. And it's where you start on the back neckline and you create sort of a trapezoid shape doing increases every row, and then you pick up for the shoulders and do the front shoulders, work that flat and go in the round. I am currently working on another sweater doing a European shoulder, and I want to finish that sweater before starting on this one to see if I can improve the construction. On this other sweater I'm working on, I'm changing the increase rate on the back. So on this version and on most of the patterns I follow that follow a European construction, they have you increasing on the back part every single row, and that creates a really striking angle. The main issue I have with that is you get this wrinkling here, this puffing, and I have thought of two possible solutions to this. Solution number one is decreasing my increase rate. So right away, it doesn't wrinkle and it's totally fine for a while, but then it gets wrinkly. So on the other version I worked on, I increased every single row for like 2 inches, and then I switched to increasing every other row. So far, it's looking a lot better, but I really want to finish it and see how it fits, wear it for a bit before committing to making another sweater using that technique. The other option is when I go to pick up stitches to do the front shoulder, I could pick up more stitches along here, but my theory is that's going to pull on this like bar, this increased bar seam, whatever you want to call it. I think it's going to pull on it too much. So I'm trying the increase thing first, and then if that doesn't work, I'll try picking up more stitches. Are there any other problems with this? I don't know. I'm wondering if there's not enough color. I might do a swatch for this, but I think doing garter stitch or doing a purl side out could be interesting. So I just want to play with that idea, not necessarily commit to it. Okay, I think that is it for stuff I need to remember. I finally get these needle cords back. I've been truly suffering in my other projects because I haven't had any of my longer cords. So I'm working on the body of a sweater right now, and I'm using like a 12-inch cord for it, and it feels a little ridiculous. But clearly it didn't bother me enough to do something about it. I'm wondering how long this is gonna take. I'm wondering if I should separate. It's 2 strands of yarn, and I'm wondering if I should separate the strands. I feel like I should, but I don't want to. I should. I'll do it. I'll be good. Unless it gets really annoying, in which case I'll stop. This is where it would be helpful to have 2 people unraveling at the same time. There are finally movies coming out in theaters that I actually want to see, which is fun. I've definitely had a movie theater dry spell so far this year, But my husband and I went to go see the Naked Gun movie, it was kind of fun to see a really silly movie. A friend of mine mentioned that she wanted to see it, but she's never seen any of the Naked Gun movies before. So I was like, you sure? But we went to see it and we had a great time. So that was fun. A bunch of people commented on a video that I should watch Sinners. And I finally watched Sinners. I've actually seen it twice. And I really love it. Oh my gosh, I was geeking out so much when they changed the aspect ratio. If you haven't seen it before, they changed the aspect ratio during the movie. It's so cool. If you don't know what aspect ratio is, it's when you see those like black bars and it's the widescreen versus when there's no black bars and it's the more like full screen. And a lot of times for older movies, you'll see the black bars on either side running vertically, so it's a little bit more square. It's just so cool. I love it. Creative cinematography. I'll always appreciate that. Honey Don't is supposed to come out this weekend, so I think I'm gonna try and see that. And I also wanna see The Roses with Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm thinking that one will be fun. Okay, what is next to unravel? Probably this sleeve. This sleeve, I need scissors. I need to look up a list of movies that are coming out. They're making another Now You See Me movie. I just watched that with my friend. It's the same friend. Every time I mention watching a movie with a friend, it's the same one. She didn't grow up watching movies like I did, so there's so many movies she just hasn't seen. So we've been slowly watching tons and tons of movies, and thankfully she is such a good sport about watching new movies. Meanwhile, I'm the person that likes to rewatch the same stuff over and over again. But I've definitely been better in recent years with watching newer movies. I did a journaling video where I talked more about this, and I have been watching those movies on those lists, and there have been many that I have so been enjoying. All right, there's a Frankenstein movie coming out. Maybe I should see if I can find a trailer for that, because I could be interested in that. Are we going to have another, See, this is why I shouldn't weave in my ends as I go. I always regret it. If you're someone that unravels a lot, weaving in your ends just makes it so much more annoying to unravel. All right, now we're cooking. All right, we've got another Conjuring movie come out. I might see that. Oh, I saw Weapons in theater. That's one that I saw. I really enjoyed Weapons. I really did. It was actually funnier than I expected. And then my husband doesn't normally he doesn't get scared at movies, and he'd probably say now that he wasn't very scared, but he was like plugging his ears, which is something I do during scary movies because I am such a baby, but I really like going to see them as long as there's not too much body horror. But yeah, I plug my ears and close my eyes because it's the sound that gets you. And I looked over at one point and he was doing that too. And I was like, are you making fun of me? And he was like, no. So Weapons was good, and it had a lot more funny bits than I was expecting. Like, it definitely had some humorous portions that I appreciated. All right, what else is coming out? A new Knives Out movie. I love murder mysteries. That is my favorite genre ever. So the Hercule Poirot movies, the Knives Out movies, I will be singing all of them, no matter how much I talk about how I don't love franchises. My issue isn't with franchises. I don't have an issue with sequels. There are plenty of really good sequels out there. My issue is with like really half-hearted ones, and they just feel like cash grabs. But sometimes I saw Megan 2 in theaters. So I guess I'm a total hypocrite. Whatever, I'll be a hypocrite. I want to support the theaters. Maybe that's the way I'll spin it, is I'm trying to support the theaters. I think it's just that I try and go out of my way to see original movies, but I am a little bit more selective with the franchises that I go see. That being said, I will be seeing the second Wicked movie that's coming out this year and the next Avatar. I understand the criticisms with Avatar. I get it. It's so beautiful. It's eye candy. I love the visuals so much. I don't care what the story is. It doesn't matter. That's not what it's about. It's like Dune. I could care less what's happening. I'm there for the visuals. That's pretty much it. I don't care about space politics. I never have. Is anything else coming out? Good Fortune. What's Good Fortune? I haven't heard of that one. Mortal Kombat. The commercial did not look very good. There's one that came out on Netflix. I don't have Netflix, so I should maybe get it for a month. I want to watch The Old Guard 2 just because I really loved the first movie. I can't say anything about it without spoiling it. It's a little bit more serious in tone. Death of a Unicorn. What's that about? Oh, it looks like it already came out?
The Leopold animals donated this entire nature preserve. A lot of species in this area are rare.
I think we know exactly what it is.
I don't think I should be in swim shorts for this moment.
Coming out this spring. This came out in spring. I have not heard of this. That's the thing about me not being on social media. I miss out on a lot of news. Yes, I'm considering movies coming out being news. I should see if my library has it. If it's been out for months. 8 months ago, this trailer came out. Well, that's not saying anything. Like the Avatar trailers come out like a year or two before that movie actually comes out. But I guess I got a movie to go see. Thursday Murder Club. It seems like a kitschy thriller. So I should read the book and then watch the movie. Is it like a Netflix movie? 76% on Rotten Tomatoes? That good? That's good by Rotten Tomato standards. Okay, I've got some movies to see. Maybe I was complaining ahead of time. I mean, I stand by a lot of what I said about movies nowadays, but still, I'm missing out on some good ones. All right, are there any other movies from like 2025 that I have not mentioned that I need to see? Because clearly, I'm not getting all the news. Okay, this is gonna take me probably another hour or so. I'm gonna watch an episode of The Mentalist. Don't tell my husband I'm watching it without him. Classic Pippin sitting just out of frame. She's either right in front of the camera, fully blocking it, or just out of frame. Those are her two modes.
All of my friends say, girl, you better take care. Cause that man is trouble, you best beware. And though deep down, I know I might be headed for teardrops. Now that you got me started, I just can't stop.